My name's Alistair. If you use that crazy Twitter thing, you'll find me. I'm at Alistair F. And I work for Microsoft. My job there is I'm the head of digital marketing strategy, which basically translates as helping marketeers at Microsoft figure out where this whole technology thing is going and how we can use it to achieve our business goals to get people to use Microsoft technologies and to get the value out of them that we create. So that's kind of what I do. But because of that, I spend a lot of time thinking about the way that society is changing, the way that marketing as an industry has to change, and that's what I want to talk to you about tonight. Something really big is happening, and we all know what's driving it, and of course, I'm from a tech company, so I'm going to say this, but I don't think anyone would disagree, it's technology. We hear stats like this all the time, right? No surprise. The average laptop, not a super fast, expensive, whizzy one, or one of those fruit-based computers some of you may use. The average laptop has got 25,000 times more computing power within it than was in the Apollo lunar landing modules in the very late 60s. Sorry? The IBM made, exactly. And think of the journey that we've come on to get to this point where it's almost disposable technology and we just take it for granted. It's an extraordinary thing. So what I want to do is give you a bit of a framework tonight to understand where this has come from, how it's changing us, and so on. So what we're going to talk about is we need to understand some basic stuff here if we're going to be good marketers in the future. I want to talk about digital society. We need to understand what is the digital society, how are people living their lives, what are their expectations. I want to talk about the psychology of social media, because if you understand what is actually appealing to people's innermost requirements and needs and desires in life, then you're better equipped to take advantage of what the social web offers us. I'm going to talk about the marketer's role, because many marketers I meet don't actually stop to think, what is my purpose now? Has it changed? Can I continue doing what I've always done? It is radically different. And you also need to try to understand what's next. I don't understand what's next. I've not yet met anybody who genuinely does, because it's moving so quick the human brain can't keep up. But that's what we need to understand. And this is real foundation stuff. And where I see many businesses that I talk to, their social media efforts go wrong is because they don't stop to think about what is actually happening here before they just create that Facebook page, do that Twitter thing, get something out there. You've got to understand these things. And when you've got those things in place, you'll be equipped to do it well. And I'll finish with my top tips that will help you to be great marketeers. So let's start by understanding digital society. Now, I've done this chart. It's completely unscientific. The dates are correct. And what I've tried to do is map our journey to connectedness, all right? From the beginning of time, which in Microsoft terms is mid-1970s, through to the present day and beyond. Right, so where we started with technology. Back in the day, the Altair computer that Bill Gates first started doing some coding on, any Commodore 64 owners in the room tonight? We still got, I wish I'd kept that machine, that was a beast. It was the biggest selling personal computer of its age. And the compact disc came along, and then the emergence of mobile phone networks was actually in the mid-1980s. But really, there was not a lot of connectivity between these. It was standalone pieces of tech. Didn't allow you to connect up to other stuff, didn't allow you to connect to people at all. And of course, it really got interesting when some guy, Tim Berners-Lee, invented what we now know as the internet. And from there, we've gone on an extraordinary journey. And these brands have appeared. Yahoo, Netscape, Wi-Fi appeared in the mid-90s. RSS, Google launched, and Facebook came along, BBC iPlayer, Bing, Twitter. These dates are real, and sometimes it's really helpful to remind yourself how recently this stuff has happened. It's not long ago. So that's interesting, and we got more and more connected, right through to an age-old institution like the BBC, God bless them, with the iPlayer, an incredibly connected social technology that they've built. But it gets interesting because I think that's one path, but there was a parallel path that took longer, and that's hardware. Through the DVD emergence, the early Xboxes, through the Wii, the iPhone, the iPad, and of course, I'm contractually bound to put the Windows Phone 7 at the top of this chart. I hope you appreciate this. But it's actually the coming together of these two lines that's caused this ability, it's given us this ability to be connected, not just at our desktops, not just at a fixed point in place, but anywhere we want to be. Top deck of the bus, down the pub, right here, right now, we're connected all the time. And it's that, really, which has sparked the social media explosion. Not just the technologies that got better and made it happen, but the fact that we can do it everywhere. Because human beings, and I'll refer to this a lot, it's taken us millions of years to evolve to be who we are right now, to sit still without dribbling and talk vaguely coherently as I'm trying to do tonight. We ain't changing that quickly. So we know connected technology at a desk is not going to change society very much. But when you give it to me and I can walk out the cave and I can go wherever I want to go and still have that experience, something incredible happens. So, social media, let's make sure we all understand what it is. I'll give you my definition. This isn't my definition. I found this in a textbook. Social media comprises online applications, platforms, and media focused on collaboration, sharing, and interaction between users. Lots of nice words. I'm not sure I understand any of them. Here's my definition. Let's keep it simple. It's just people having conversations online, right? Take that as your definition, and a lot of stuff gets really easy. It's the same conversations we've already had. Down the pub, over the garden fence, the water cooler. It's just human beings having conversations, but they're doing it through different channels because of what technology has given them. But don't get too seduced by the Facebooks and the Twitters and the LinkedIns that we talk about. That is not social media. They are social media enabling technologies. It's not just about those. It's also about all manner of things. So we talk about social networking. It's photo sharing, RSS, microblogging, wikis, search, video sharing, podcasting, bookmarking sites, professional sites, slide sharing through presentations and things like that. But the most potent thing of all is the fact that all of these technologies are connected. They have the same underlying DNA. So if you take a picture of me right now, put it onto Twitter, you can also stick it onto Flickr with a touch of a few buttons, you can post it on a blog. It's the same content can be repeated and used in lots of places. So the fact that it's connected is interesting. But let's not forget the hardware stream as well, because this is all kind of happening on desktops and mobile phones and so on. And it's not just about these devices. It's also going through to your TV. It's through your gaming console has the capability to tap into all these networks. It's things like this. This is the Logitech Squeezebox. That's my alarm clock of choice at the moment. It sits by my bed, on my bedside table. And it can bring in Facebook updates. It can bring in Spotify music streams. It can bring in all sorts of crazy stuff if I want it. It's probably not more than you could do with a mobile phone on a docking station, but it's a really cheap, wonderful device. I love it. But it's also things like this. TomTom, completely useless today, but TomTom, this device, the Go Live 10:05 World, will tweet the arrival time if you want it to. So your friends can follow the stream and get updates on your journey and see how you're going. The technology that's in these things now allows you to see socially where your contacts are and what they're doing and what speeds they're doing and so on. Incredible devices like, we got any runners in the room? Any runners? Yeah, it's all the thin people. I'm not a runner. I'm just doing this for demonstration purposes. But this could make me want to run, maybe. Nike Plus. Incredible, GPS enabled through your iPhone or through other devices. This TomTom powered phone, actually, a watch rather, can allow you to not just go for a run, but obviously then map that run information, see the times, see the speeds that you're doing. If you've got a playlist running through iTunes, then you can see what your playlist was. You can compare the runs that your friend is doing. Maybe they take a different route. Maybe they power up that hill faster than you. You can say, why is that? And then you realise that they got a bit of Lady Gaga going on and you're stuck with your Coldplay. Take their playlist, go and do it. Incredible technology for runners. You used to have to pay thousands of pounds to get a coach to tell you virtually the same information, right? It's all available to you through the social web. So think about this stuff as well. But I'm talking about our society. And we have a really polarised society right now. I show this cartoon because I think this lady didn't look like my mum, but this is my mum. Right? This is the sort of thing she'd say. I have an even smaller wireless device that can connect to thousands of books and movies. It's a library card. And I would not get her to use some of this stuff if I tried for months and months. She doesn't want to know. She's of a generation where she's not interested in that. She doesn't see a need for it. She's quite happy with the way things are. And there is large parts of the population that are still like this. So while we sit here as digital Surrey, obviously we're thinking about this stuff. Continually remind yourself that out there in the real world, it ain't like that. Not everybody's driving around in minis with iPhones and iPads and all this stuff. It's a very different world. It's a great interview, and you can go on YouTube and search for Everything's everything's wonderful and nobody's happy. So it's a great interview. But it's really interesting because this is where society's got to. We've got a young generation that Louis C.K. describes there who take this stuff completely for granted, the digital natives. They've never known anything else. And they get frustrated when things take a nanosecond. And then we've got my mum at the other end who really doesn't want to know anything about it. So as marketeers, we have a really interesting challenge on our hands to appeal. If we want to broaden our appeal and appeal to the mass market, we have to do things still for these different types of people. So understand that society. I also talked about something big is happening. I want to talk about how big this thing is. We all get used to seeing this. But there's some stuff that I find really interesting. It's quite powerful. For example, this is a site by a guy called Gary Hayes. If you search for Gary Hayes, you'll find it straight away. And this just runs on the website. And you can go there anytime. You're trying to convince your boss, your mum, as a client that this stuff is real. Take a look at this. All right, in the last 20 seconds, nearly 300,000 items shared on Facebook, 1 million videos watched on YouTube, 24 hours uploaded to YouTube since this slide began. You've got new Twitter accounts, nearly 200. Think about this. Boom, 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 boom. The pace of this is extraordinary. So you can go to this site and you can take a look at this stuff. Another way of looking at it is to say, well, what happens in the average 60 seconds on the web today? And again, some amazing stats that just blow my brain. 98,000 tweets in 60 seconds. It didn't exist a few years ago. There's 320 new Twitter accounts. Don't underestimate that. They might be in Africa or India or miles away from where we are tonight. But right now, someone is taking that first bold step onto Twitter, and they're doing it at a rate of faster than you can imagine. Look at Facebook. 700,000 Facebook updates, 80,000 wall posts, 500,000 comments every 60 seconds. Now, you can't possibly monitor all this stuff, but if you're in business, I can guarantee, unless you're really incredibly boring, someone is talking about you somewhere within all of this. Maybe not in the last 60 seconds, but certainly within the last 24 hours. And you need to understand this if you're going to keep up with it. Another way of looking at this is to say, well, looking at August, what was the average hour that was spent online in the UK, right? So remember those halcyon days of the summer, we were all walking around in shorts and t-shirts, having barbecues because it was such a glorious summer. I may have got my facts mixed up there. But this is what the average hour looks like. And incredibly, the biggest area is social media. Nearly a quarter of that hour is spent by people doing stuff on social media. Now, this chart has not changed in about 2 years. Very small variances. But that social media piece is stuck at 14 minutes. That seems to be the threshold that people can tolerate, right? What's interesting, you've got entertainment, 9 minutes. Now, think about that. You've got BBC, Martin Scorsese. You've got incredible multi-billion-dollar budgets trying to get your attention, and they're getting 9 minutes of the hour. Right? We've got some others, shopping, news, adult, 2 minutes. Actually, the average visit to an adult site in the UK, I looked this up just for research purposes, 7 minutes, 22 seconds. Who knew? I don't know. Your mileage may vary. 2 minutes on that's getting squeezed at the moment. There's loads of all sorts of crazy stuff. But within that social media, 14 minutes, that equates to 800 million, my mum would say, wasted hours per month. The average visit for social media consumption is 20 minutes. On entertainment, it's only 10. I'll come to you in a sec. Only 10. So with all those billions of dollars of budget that's spent, entertainment is managing to get half the attention span for people than the social media. It's incredibly sticky. Andy, sorry.
They're obviously defining social media in a particular way, not the way that you define it at the beginning.
Yes, not just about people having conversations. It's largely about people spending time on the big networks, doing stuff on the big networks, sharing stuff and so on. So that's how Hitwise look at this. But it's incredibly sticky. So we need to understand this stuff, right, if we're going to be good marketeers. And the other thing that I often hear is, oh yeah, but not everyone uses it. And I've said myself that the older generation don't necessarily use it. This is the percentages of different age bands. This is US data, but it's broadly the same in the UK, who use social media. So yes, when you get to the 74 pluses, fewer than 1 in 5 are using social media. That's understandable. But at the top end there, the 18 to 33s, it's an extraordinary 83%. So if we just compare that with the percentage of each of those age bands that's actually online, what you start to see is the gaps are really small. This thing is almost completely universal. If you're online, you're likely to be doing this. And actually the gaps, relatively, yes, they're slightly larger in this age range here, but to a fairly large extent, there's not a huge amount of more opportunity for social media. It's pretty universal. Actually, if you compare it with what is the universal measure for being a sophisticated online user, right? So rather than just someone who's got an email account and that's all they do, and they maybe go to do a search once a month, people who watch video online, that's kind of the universal measure of a relatively advanced internet user. You see the gaps are even smaller, right? So actually here, the 18 to 33s, they're more likely to be doing social media than even watching stuff on YouTube or iPlayer or 4 on demand. You got so it's much higher in 12 to 17-year-olds, and you see the gaps are really tiny. So the whole generational thing, I'm sorry, it's over. It's there. Social media is pretty much a universal habit now. The other thing that I hear is, yeah, but it's only a Twitter. You're talking to yourself in an echo chamber. Who cares, right? Well, that is largely true. Most of the time that's true. Unless you're incredibly lucky, you're incredibly wise, or you've got a lot of fans, you're unlikely to cause an internet sensation, however hard you try. But if we take this example, which was inspired by something I saw at ngonlinenews.com, day in the life of a tweet. If I were to stand here now, take a picture of you right now, tweet something amusing, witty, or just interesting to the world, right? I can put that onto Twitter. I can also instantly post it to Facebook, for example. That content, if it's good, will get retweeted by some of you. Might be happening right now. It can enter the blogosphere. Someone might pick up on that and say, actually, this is really interesting. We should do this thing in Milan or somewhere else. Then the picture gets posted on Flickr, or it goes onto blog sites. Maybe it's getting indexed by Google and Bing. Bing indexes in real time. This isn't an ad for Bing, by the way, but it surfaces this content in real time. So if it's a good thing and lots of people are buzzing about it and it's unique content, I could be top of the search results within a matter of minutes if it's that potent. It's also then going to get submitted to bookmarking sites, and more people are going to discover it. It can go from Facebook through to LinkedIn, all kind of other crazy networks. It even get used in office emails, and it can go round and round the web forever. There is no delete button. I've looked for it. It doesn't exist. So this is how this stuff can move. And I've got a real-life example for you. Anyone remember these? Panda Pops. Yeah, lots of nods. You like your Panda Pops? When was the last time you had a Panda Pop? A while ago. Look at this. 17th of February. You know when someone dies and you think, I didn't realize they were still alive? Panda Pops were discontinued last month after 35 years. I didn't even know that until I saw this. Here's an example. This is one guy, fewer than 100 followers. Look at what happened. These are some of the tweets. It got retweeted, you can see there actually, it's on there. 100 plus others. Check this out. No more Panda Pops. Oh my God, this is sad news. Strawberry and jelly and ice cream was the shiz back in the day. I don't know what that means. It's calling for a day of anger over the end of Panda Pops. What will I get from the ice cream van this summer when I'm out running? Can the Twitter community do for Panda Pops what Facebook did for the Whisper Bar? They've stopped making Panda Pops. That has radically affected my opinion on having children. Why would I bring any into such a cruel world? It's the internet. All human life is there. But welcome it. Panda Pops hadn't had any publicity in years, went out of business as a result, and one guy tweets this, and that's the stream. Over 100 people. He has now, yeah. He's picked up a lot of followers on the back of this case study because a lot of people say that's really extraordinary. But this is what happened on that day, 17th of February.
Was it true though?
Yes, true. It was discontinued. Yeah, it was. They took the brand out. They had financial difficulties, so they went out of business. But over in the USA, there's a site for Brits who live in the USA from the BBC, and it's what's going on in the UK right now. So on the 17th of February, there were two things that were going on. There were some solar flares that you may not remember. Basically, these solar flares were going to destroy all of humanity and kill us all, right? That was number one, quite a big story. Number two, Panda Pops. I kid you not. This is how potent this got, is that it got so much attention. They picked it, the BBC picked it as the number 2 happening in the UK for expats based in the US. Now, that doesn't happen all the time, but it shows it can. And so if you understand the mechanisms, maybe you can take advantage of it. So that's society.